couldn't be any better. Angel Stadium in Anaheim is this week's stage for ESPN's Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. The Boston Red Sox have moved back to the top of the AL East the old-fashioned way. They've earned it. Led by All-Stars Dustin Pedroia and David Ortiz, the Sox believe they can just might be the team they need to be about. All-Star Mike Trout is having another strong season that has Angels fans on the edge of their seats. But last night, it was a ninth-inning rally, and Josh Hamilton's walk-off home run in the 11th that brought the faithful to their feet as the Angels strive to turn around their season after a disappointing start. Tonight, they send starter Jared Weaver to the mound against former Angel John Lackey of the Red Sox. First pitch when we come back on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball.
Hey, I just ordered some more weeks. See you later. Be safe, huh?
Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN on a warm, summer, sunny day here in Anaheim as we move into evening. Dustin Pedroia and the Boston Red Sox taking on Josh Hamilton and the Los Angeles Angels. It has been a great season so far for the Red Sox. Not only do they have the lead in the American League East, they have the best record in the American League. With a win tonight, will have the best record in all of baseball. The Angels, after a dreadful start, playing better of late, starting to make a move back towards the 500 mark and maybe contending later on this season. Hi, everybody. Dan Shulman, John Kruk, Oral Hershiser. Glad you're with us tonight here at Angel Stadium. For the Red Sox, some new faces this year and a real change in the culture, it feels like, in that clubhouse.
Yeah, the chemistry is definitely changing that clubhouse. And John Farrell said, look, Dustin Pedroia is still the guy that stirs the drink. He's getting a lot of help, though, from guys pouring those drinks for him. Mike Napoli, Shane Victorino, Johnny Gomes, grinders, baseball players. They're led by this man, though, Dustin Pedroia. But they battle it out, and they said in the clubhouse to a man, 24/7, all we think about is baseball.
Pedroia having a very strong season, heading to the All-Star game. Again, nice pitching matchup tonight. John Lackey, the former Angel for the Red Sox. Jared Weaver goes for the hometown Angels. Also for the Angels, all eyes, of course, will be on their All-Star, Mike Trout.
One of the most gifted players in the game, but the comparisons don't stop there. Look at one of the best players in the game. He can run, he can hit for power, and he plays outstanding defense. And think about this, from when he was called up, he was wanting to energize this team. He has. He made the All-Star team last year. He was second in MVP voting. And then, come into the threat of a sophomore slump, he continues to produce. And not only is he on the All-Star team, but he is starting the All-Star game. Mike Trout is as close as you're going to get, if you love baseball, to must-see TV.
And the pitcher tonight for the Angels, as mentioned, is Jared Weaver. Weaver, who spent about 7 weeks on the DL after breaking his left elbow. The elbow in his non-throwing arm. Did that on the Sunday night baseball game back that we had near the beginning of the season. But he is back, coming off a very good start, and obviously, given his success in recent years, is a huge key if the Angels are to get back into contention in the second half of the season. John Farrell in his first year as manager of the Boston Red Sox, a couple of years in Toronto. And here is the lineup that he puts on the field tonight as presented by Taco Bell. The Boston Red Sox are the highest scoring team in baseball this year. One of the reasons Jacoby Ellsbury is healthy on a 16-game hitting streak and leading the majors in stolen bases. And Mike Napoli hit a home run on Friday night, and ever since he left the Angels, he has tormented the Angels with 13 home runs in 38 games against them. So many dangerous hitters. David Ortiz, Daniel Nava having a very good season. Jose Iglesias in limited at-bats hitting in the 400 range. And ready for baseball. The shadows will be a factor here on the West Coast just after 5 o'clock local time. The third and final game of this series. The Red Sox winning on Friday night, and the Angels with a miraculous comeback win last night, getting 4 in the 9th to tie it, and then a walk-off home run from Josh Hamilton in the 11th to win it. Mike Winters is our home plate umpire. And you can see what a challenge it'll be in the first couple of innings for batters here tonight. Ellsbury is ready, Weaver is ready, and we are underway here in Anaheim. Well, such a difference for the Red Sox, having a healthy Ellsbury, a healthy Pedroia, ever since the first 3 weeks of the season, a healthy Ortiz as well. Ellsbury slams it to left field, and it's over the head of Shuck. And now the ball skips away from Ibar, but Ellsbury will stay at second base.
John, you've played a lot of left field. Is it hard to see in these shadows also as a defender?
Yeah, it can be, but I think if you've watched J.B. Shuck play this past week, he's made a couple bad judgments in decision-making in the outfield, and this is one where he just froze on it. Like you say the ball hit right at you at center field's a difficult play. This is another one right here because the ball's going to slice away with the left-handed hitter, and he turned the wrong way and got going the wrong way, and he never could catch up to it.
So a leadoff double is the way it scored for Ellsbury, and an early opportunity for the Red Sox here in the top of the first. That'll bring up Daniel Nava, who's been a real pleasant surprise for Boston this year, hitting .295, and he's already driven in 50 runs. This is a guy who was undrafted out of college, played in the Independent League here in California, and eventually just year by year he keeps hitting, keeps getting noticed. Got a great opportunity this year, and he has made the most of it. Versatile guy, switch hitter, Left, right, even first if they need him there. And you can hear it, and we hear this whenever you do Red Sox games on the road. You can hear this. We can hear the "Let's Go Red Sox" chants. There are some Red Sox fans here in Southern California.
Well, they are a well-traveled team as far as fandom goes, and like the Yankees, and people come out to see them.
You can see 90 miles an hour on that fastball. If that's where Weaver is, or that's pretty much what he is, that means the velocity's better than it was earlier in the season.
Yeah, his average velocity has been down around 86 as he has gotten a lot of innings under his belt here in his big league career, but they've made some mechanical adjustments that they might get some of that velocity back.
Ripped to right field, a base hit. Ellsbury had to wait to see that it would fall in front of Hamilton, so he'll move to third. 2 on, nobody out for the Red Sox here in the top of the first. And it won't get any easier for Jared Weaver as Dustin Pedroia comes up, having one of his best seasons, second in the American League in batting at .325. And a career-high 50 RBIs before the All-Star break. He's never driven in this many runs this early in the season.
Pretty fierce lineup when your second and third hitter both have over 50 RBIs. And then the guy behind him is no slouch either.
Yeah, and the guy behind him has over 50 as well. 2, 3, 4, 5 all have at least 50 RBIs already. And a strike at the knees. There's David Ortiz limbering up on deck. The Red Sox looking for a big first inning here in Anaheim. This is something John Farrell told us before the game. They had a crushing defeat yesterday. They were up 7-3 in the 9th inning. The Angels got 4 to tie it, then won it in the 11th. But they turned the page. They're not going to let something like that loss last night really dwell.
They love playing the game, and they love talking baseball, and they love not shaving.
And Pedroia and Gomes and Napoli and Dempster, Ortiz.
Well, with the cost of razors nowadays, how can they afford them?
But this is a baseball culture. If you're a gym rat and you love the game and you want to be talking it all day long in the bench, in the locker room, on the team bus, in the food room, these guys are your team to follow or your team to be on.
Pedroia fighting off an 0-2 pitch. He's an extremely good 0-2 hitter, tough to strike out. Laces it to third, where it's caught by Callaspo for out number 1. Let's take a look now at Do More, brought to you by Safeco. And offensively, the Red Sox have been doing more than just about anybody else in the baseball this year. So check out some of their numbers. Number 1 in the American League in so many different categories, including the most important category, runs per game. They have scored over 5 runs per game. And again, getting contributions up and down the lineup, and getting another big year from the guy at the plate right now, David Ortiz. 5th in the American League in batting, 6th in the American League in RBIs, and headed to the All-Star game again.
It's interesting to watch David take batting practice, and 80% of the balls that he hits in batting practice, he hits to the left side of second base. But now you look at the Angels' shift that they have on, even with first and third, and the infielders are all shifted over to the right side. So he thinks left field when he's at the plate and during batting practice, but ultimately he usually pulls the ball.
Changeup misses down and away, ball 2.
And this is another reason why he's so dangerous, because he is selective. He's not going to chase pitches out of the zone. A lot of hitters, RBI guys, big RBI guys, they see a runner on third, less than 2 outs. They're hacking, and they're going to try to drive the run in no matter what the circumstance. And David Ortiz is going to be patient right here and make Weaver come to him.
And Weaver throws him a slow curve on 2-0.
Not a fastball. He's looking for something hard. Whatever location he's looking, in or away, And if it's something else, he's taken.
Weaver's not scared to throw him a fastball. He just feels that Ortiz is going to be swinging, and he goes on the situation, not on a scouting report.
With fastball down and away, 2-2. 3 on the right side of the infield for the Angels, but in the outfield, they play Ortiz to drive the ball the other way. As the guys mentioned, he does that a lot. Hits the ball hard to left center. Callaspo would be further off the line, but he's got to hang around third base to a certain extent to keep Ellsbury honest down there. Weaver strikes him out.
Well, he falls behind, but he pretty much convinces him as he comes back into the count with slow stuff that that's the way he wants to get him out. So he starts with a fastball away, and now watch 2 off-speed pitches. And here he comes back into the count, even though he catches a break there, and he's catching a break there from David chasing. But he wears out the outside after slowing him down. He beats him to the spot with the fastball. Put a lot of effort into it, but kept his accuracy and hit the corner.
So now 2 down. Weaver trying to get out of this situation here in the first. And the batter is Mike Napoli. Ortiz still mumbling and grumbling after striking out.
Well, that motion really right unhappy there, Dan, was those balls were away, the called strikes. He's upset.
Wow, that's what happens. They start calling him away, and then you have to chase away.
Yeah.
Former battery mates here. Napoli, at one point a catcher for Weaver here in Anaheim. Now a first baseman for the most part. DH occasionally for the Boston Red Sox, and a guy who got off to a great start, then hit a real slump, hit a home run as we mentioned on Friday night, and still has been productive with 55 RBIs on the season. Napoli, one of those guys Crucky was talking about, along with the likes of Victorino and Gomes, who have brought more of a grinder mentality to the Red Sox. Again, kind of pitching backwards, as they say. Oral wouldn't throw him a fastball 2-0.
Yeah, the fastball in the fastball counts, but he's going to the edges, and when he has to throw a strike, he's been using his off-speed stuff. Jared Weaver is a gamer. He is a tough competitor, and even falling behind, he likes to live on the edges.
Well, this is something that the Red Sox hitters are going to put, in the back of their minds next time they face Weaver, when they come back up in their next turn in the order. Is okay, he's going to try to get ahead hard, but he gets behind, he's going to throw breaking balls. One of them might set on one and try to hit one out of here.
Two and two.
It's an interesting mental battle when you face a battery mate, an old battery mate, thinking along with you, and you go, I know that he knows that he knows that I know, and where do you stop?
Too much thinking, eh, Crockett?
Seems to be.
Comes down to execution, doesn't it?
If he throws it where he's not looking, he's got a great chance of getting him out.
Yep.
Weaver 104 and 56 in his career, an outstanding winning percentage, and he's been even tougher in this ballpark over the course of his career. He's 54 and 22 with a 2.70 ERA in his career in this ballpark. That's in 104 starts. He has won 20. He's led the majors in strikeouts. Again, the 2-2. Just missed off the corner.
He threw a fastball last pitch. Napoli fouled off straight back, and now he comes back in the same area, but a breaking pitch and just misses the corner.
The old catcher not too happy that was ball 3. Runner from first. Nava will be on the move.
He might not have been happy. He might be telling Brad Hopp with 3-2 count, 2 out to move back.
Swing and a miss, and the inning is over. What a job by Weaver to get out of it, stranding a couple. To the bottom of the first, no score. Mike Trout due up second for the Angels. Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by iShares by BlackRock. Visit iShares.com to learn more. And Goodyear, chosen by experts for superior performance. Goodyear, more driven. Bottom of the first, no score. Former Angel John Lackey is on the mound for the Boston Red Sox tonight. For more, down to the field and a toasty warm Buster Olney.
When Red Sox manager John Farrell went to see John Lackey in the offseason, the first thing he said to him was, what happened? Because he dropped about 20 pounds through his diet. Now, when his former manager, Mike Sosa, saw him for the first time this week, and he said, I thought about calling him skinny. He looks better than he has before. He's throwing the ball better than he has before.
Yeah, John Farrell said he's all the way back to being what he was and then some. Throwing hard, great command, hardly walking anybody this year. And pours in a strike to J.B. Shuck, the left fielder for the Angels, who leads it off. You can see the numbers for John Lackey on the season. Just 18 walks in 86 and a third innings. And Orel, only 4 walks in his last 6 starts.
Yeah, the pitch he's already thrown twice here tonight. That fastball away to left-handed hitters. He's able to keep the ball out there on the corner and true. When the elbow was needing reconstruction, and as he was getting close to that, he would cut everything and kind of protect his arm and tuck it right at the end of his delivery to keep from extending. But now that the elbow's been repaired, he's got velocity back, he's got accuracy back, and he's got the flight of his ball back to right there on the corner.
Just missed it, 94, ball 1.
But that just opens so many things up when he can throw that arm side low strike now.
Gets him for out number 1. Let's take a look now at the starting lineup for the Angels, presented by Taco Bell. And Mike Trout, after the incredible year that he had last year, still having a very good season this year, and he is the Angels' only All-Star, and he will be a starter for the American League in the All-Star game. Pujols and Hamilton hitting behind him. Hitting .315 on the season. And you can project Trout, if he keeps going the way he's going, for about a 25 homer, maybe 95 or 100 RBI, 35 steal kind of season. Not bad if that's a fall off from what he did last year.
Yeah, for a sophomore slump,
Yeah.
pretty good. I wish I was in that sophomore class.
.21 years of age. Right center. Deep. Gone! Opposite field power for Mike Trout, his 15th home run of the season, and the Angels have an early 1-0 lead. Second home run in this series. And a quick 0-2 count on Albert Pujols, hitting .247 on the season. And a couple of hits in last night's game after a recent 5 for 45 slump. And bothered, as we know, guys, by plantar fasciitis in the left foot and lingering soreness in his surgically repaired right knee.
He's battling. A lot of people would be on the DL, maybe even getting surgery, but he is battling through the pain. He knows the club needs him out there, takes that responsibility very personally.
Lackey gets him to chase a breaking ball, 2 down.
Goal. Well, this is what makes Mike Trout so special. A lot of young players, when they come up, they think they have to pull home runs. He has the ability and the strength to get out of that pitch away of the plate, let it get deeper on his body. But look how he gets out and gets that ball. I mean, that's normally a base hit, maybe a double to right center field, but that just tells you the strength and the bat speed that he possesses. Ball goes out of the ballpark.
He's just pretty much blocking this ball with a protection swing and just barrels it up, and he's so strong at contact, the bat just doesn't even give. He's driving the ball. The ball is not knocking the bat out of his hand.
Hey, that follow-through is reminiscent of Mike Schmidt, that short, cut-off follow-through. That's I think if there's anyone in baseball in the future, I would like to have it be his.
There's Josh Hamilton, hit the game-winning home run last night for the Angels. The Angels have had a couple of dramatic wins in the last few days, including the 9-7 win in 11 last night. And Hamilton's been hot on an 11-game hitting streak after struggling for the entire season. Takes all the way, and it's 3-1.
The 27th out was hard for the Red Sox to get last night. Brandon Snyder made an error at third base that should have ended the game. The Angels capitalized.
Mike Scioscia, when asked what the Angels need in the second half in terms of trade deadline, what do you need to go out and get, he said they need Pujols and Hamilton to be vintage Pujols and Hamilton, or at least to be better than they've been in the first half. Swing and a miss to end the inning. But a run for the Angels on home run number 15 for All-Star Mike Trout. He didn't know it till he was halfway to second base. Goes the other way for the home run, and the Angels have an early lead.
This is my position. I grew up in Hawaii, I grew up in paradise, but, you know, ultimately I played the game of baseball just like any other kid would growing up. The pride you have to be Hawaiian, to be from that place, you know, something that will never leave you. People from Hawaii, they're going to have something that resembles Hawaii. I have the Hawaiian Islands on my shoes. You know, of course, having a nickname, the Flying Hawaiian, you know, it seems like it never gets away from you.
Back at the track, at the wall, he leaps. What a catch by Shane Victorino!
Growing up there, it's like, I use the word ohana. It's family, like everybody's family. You carry that Hawaiian flag and represent everybody, not just myself, not my family, but I represent a state. And that's the kind of stuff that you sit there and you think like, wow, you know, there is a lot of pride. They say you can take the boy off the island, but you can't take the island out of the boy.
Shane Victorino is one of 4 active major leaguers from the islands. Mike Carp leading off the second for the Red Sox. 1-0 Angels here in Anaheim. A rubber match of this 3-game series. Carp in left field tonight for Boston, doing a nice job as a part-time player, slugging .650 on the season. More than half of his hits are for extra bases.
And I think that's one of the strong suits of this team is last year with all the stars they had, if the stars struggled, they had to keep them out there because they're the stars. Yep. This team is, you know, besides Pedroia, Ortiz, Ellsbury, you know, they don't have that star power in all the other positions. So if a guy's struggling, like if Johnny Gomes is struggling or Mike Carp, the other one can play for a few days and give them a break. They have that luxury, and that's why they're all fresh, and that's why they're all playing well.
And tonight, Victorino's not in the lineup, so Nava moves from left to right. Carp gets a start in left field. Carp can also play first base.
John, I think you make a very good point as far as you can rest people, and if they're slumpy, you don't put them in there. But I also think the character that they went out and got with these guys, the intense love for baseball, the day-to-day grind it out. These guys love to work on their game, talk their game, and it's a huge culture difference there.
Well, John Farrell told us, he said, we brought in the right people to play in Boston and to play, you know, over 162-game schedule in the American League East.
These are the kind of people that if they're in a slump, they want to still be in there, but they understand why they're sitting. They understand it's about the team and about production.
Good take there on a changeup by Carp, and the count runs full. Look at what your view would be like if you're in the first row of seats behind the plate here at Angel Stadium. The Angels have been here since 1966 as that breaking ball catches the top end of the zone. And Carp strikes out, number 3 already for Weaver as we send it down to Buster.
Guys, I've been told that during the Red Sox offseason meetings, a question that was asked time and again was, what kind of person is this? In other words, this is a question that's been asked in the past, but there was a real focus on it this winter, and they talked about that player's toughness. They talked about that player's ability to play in Boston, the intensity from at-bat to at-bat. And the players who've been gathered here together, they love this particular group. David Ortiz clasped 2 hands together and said, this team is like this. It's together.
All right, Buster, thank you. And this goes back really, guys, not just to last year. If you go back to the end of the 2011 season when they had the collapse, I mean, obviously something was amiss inside that clubhouse, and that continued through last year. Some of that appeared to change with the Dodger trade that overturned so much of the roster, but they kept making changes in the offseason. And I think most outsiders thought this would be a rebuilding year for the Boston Red Sox, but instead, right now, they've got the best record in the American League.
Yeah, starting like with an old coat and just putting some patches on the sleeve really was the way this season was looking at. But boy, they have produced and grinded it out.
Being healthier helps. They had as many injuries, more injuries, in fact, used the DL more than any other team in baseball last year. And wound up 69-93 in last place in the American League East, trying to go worst to first.
We are watching them. They're down 1-0, but they are grinding out these at-bats. I mean, 3-1, 2-0, 2-1. Get to 3-2, see what happens. They've struck out 3 times, but they hit as a unit. And they talk about building up pitch counts for starters.
Full count. They see more pitches than any team in baseball. They're making Jared Weaver work hard here in the early going.
Weaver's already had to make a lot of high-stress pitches, Oral.
First and third, nobody out in the first, and got out of it unscathed.
You know what's impressive to me right now is it's hard to see the ball. And so as a pitcher, you're thinking I'm going to have some clean, quick innings because they don't want to get to 2 strikes. But the Red Sox hitters are saying, you know what, even if we don't see as well as we will later in the game, we're still going to work the count, and we're not fearful of a 2-strike count.
Three-two again. And no play for Ibar. It'll be an infield hit for Lavarnway. Well, if you start to break down where the Red Sox are a much better team this year than they were last year, some of the numbers are pretty basic. You can see that they are scoring 0.6 of a run per game more than they were last year. They lead the majors in offense this season, and their starting pitching has been so much better. Lackey missed all of last year. He's pitching very well this year. Clay Buchholz on the DL right now, but was having a sensational season until he got hurt. John Lester got off to a very good start. And that's why instead of being 69-93 right now, they find themselves 19 games over and in the lead in the American League East. Do you view what you've seen the first 89 games, guys, as sustainable by the Red Sox? Is this who they are this year?
I think so, yeah. And I think just because of the fact that, you know, they're not going to lay down and die for you. They're going to fight you. They're going to, and the thing is, they're deep, Dan. They have a deep bench, and the guys are getting at bats on the bench. The guys who are playing, you know, on a regular basis are getting their at bats, but they're also getting their rest, and that's going to help them come August and September.
And the huge key is how Clay Buchholz comes back, because they really got off to a good start because Lester and Buchholz really drove the train of the starting pitching. And then Lackey came around, and that was a huge boost. And then the offense started to gel, and it just like all the pieces fell into place. And now they're working their way through some of the injuries and getting people back. But they believe with the core they're going to do it.
Brock Holt is the batter, getting a start at third base tonight, a former Pittsburgh Pirate. And in effect, platooning there with the Brandon Snyder. Will Middlebrook sent down to the minors after scuffling.
Remember, Jackie Bradley Jr. was a huge story coming out of spring and then came back. He's back down in the minors.
Out in front, 1-2. This is the 8th batter, and this will be the 40th pitch. And Weaver hasn't walked anybody, but averaging about 5 pitches per batter so far. And this is a guy, Oral, who, when he's sharp, can get through 7 innings at 95, 100 pitches.
He attacks the zone, but on the edges, changes speeds very well, and is one of the best readers of hitters in the game as far as what are they trying to do.
Just missed. Full count.
Another full count and 41 pitches already in an inning and a third. And if anyone needs a double play right now, it's him.
Fourth consecutive batter where there has been a full count. Runner not going. Swung on, grounded sharply. Diving stop by Kendrick on to first to get the out.
Well, this is something that'll save your pitch count when your second baseman makes an all-star play like this. Howie Kendrick did not make the all-star team. Maybe one of the people that people think should have been on the team. Offensively, for sure. Sometimes the glove gets overlooked, but that was an outstanding play with a great jump, great range, and Nice clock to just go to first base.
So runner at second, 2 down for the number 9 hitter, the Boston shortstop, Jose Iglesias, who is hitting .403 on the season. Does not nearly have enough plate appearances to qualify. Just named the Rookie of the Month in the American League for June. This is a guy who's never really shown the ability to do anywhere near this kind of stuff. Always hit down in the low 220s. But when you make a graphic with Ted Williams and Manny Ramirez, I mean, which of these things doesn't belong here? But here's Jose Iglesias with 60 hits in 149 at-bats. John Farrell, we asked him about him before the game, and he said, well, he's got about 6 bunt hits. He's got 17 or 18 infield hits. And he said, yeah, there's been a little bit of luck there, a little bit of hit them where they ain't, but still obviously Crucky, a much improved hitter over a year ago.
Well, you hit 400. There has to be some luck, but there's also a lot of skill that goes into it, but also changes that had to be made, and he knew it. And he went out to see Dustin Pedroia, and he spent some time with him, and Pedroia said, hey, stand more upright. You were spread out and crouched down, and stand more upright. You might see pitches better, and so far so good. It's worked out. So Dustin Pedroia has a job when he's done baseball. He can coach, hitting coach, broadcaster. If we can control him,
that'd be a job to do, to control him. Reaching for it, ground ball to third. Close, but out at first is Iglesias to end the inning. 1-0 Angels going to the bottom of the second. The hard-hitting Howie Kendrick leads it off for Los Angeles when we come back. Howie Kendrick is swing and a miss, and we're underway here in the bottom of the second. Sunday night baseball with the Angels leading the Red Sox 1-0 on a Mike Trout home run at the bottom of the first off the big right-hander and former Angel John Lackey. Spent 8 years with the Angels. Bunted, third base side of the mound, barehanded, sidearm flip in time to record the out. Nice play by Lackey.
That's a lighter John Lackey and a repaired elbow John Lackey. That's an amazing play. 20 pounds lighter, more athletic, goes into your delivery, be able to repeat it, but also goes into your defense, where you can get off the mound. You can have cat-like reflexes, but you better have some speed to get over there, and he did an outstanding job.
excellent play.
One down, and here's Alberto Callaspo, the third baseman for the Angels, and a hot hitter lately, hitting .354 in his last 18 games.
Hey, I haven't seen the ball come out of John Lackey's hands like this in a few years. Of course, last year we didn't see it at all, but I mean, it's firing out of his hand. And that's what's great about the game of baseball. He looks like he's in total command, dominating, and even though it's only the second inning, he's down 1-0. Gotta love it.
Well, not only is his ball coming out of his hand better, but it's coming out of his hands closer to the hitter now. He's getting down the hill and not protecting that arm. I got a chance to sit and chat with him yesterday, and he talked about the confidence he had in his arm and how he doesn't have to kind of tuck it and throw the ball from just barely over the rubber, but now he can get down the hill and really extend and whip his arm. He said anything he did to extend his arm straight killed him. If it was turning a changeup over, it was throwing a hard fastball, he'd have to cut it off, and now it's just everything is full extension.
Left center, base hit. As mentioned, John Lackey spent a long time here in Anaheim, and his major league debut with the Angels in 2002. Started and won Game 7 of the World Series as a rookie. Stayed with the Angels through the 2009 season, won over 100 games with the Angels. Had a terrible year in 2011, an ERA of .641. Obviously, the elbow was an issue that year as he missed all of 2012 after undergoing Tommy John surgery, and now he is back. And as good as ever, it seems, throwing hard, throwing strikes, and helping solidify the Red Sox rotation. Here's Brad Hopp getting a start at first base tonight for the Angels. Mark Trumbo has been doing most of the work at first base. Albert Pujols has been DHing most of the time. Trumbo struggling lately, getting a night off, and Hopp getting a start. Well, they're not picking up that slider very well.
No, and a lot of that is the stuff that John Lackey has, but another reason is because he's throwing his fastball at 94 miles an hour, and you got to respect that. And you got to try to get out quicker to get that. When he throws that slider, you're just behind it a little bit, and the shadows aren't helping anything.
So it's a good day to not be a hitter. Good day to be up here.
Good day to be announcing, yeah.
Or a good day to be in the shade watching the ball game here at Angel Stadium. Lots of Red Sox fans here.
When they put down 3 for slider, he can throw it a cutter and make it really tight and sharp, and then he can turn it into a full-fledged slider. And he does that all on his own. He doesn't have to let the catchers know at all. They just want to know which direction it's breaking.
Fastball misses low.
How difficult is it early? I know it's still early, the second inning, but you know, he went through the first inning, he gave up the run, but it was a home run. This is the first time he's pitching from the stretch, and it looks like he's lost some of his command to Hopp.
A little bit. I think he's trying to be quick to the plate, protect against the running game, and he has kind of lost his rhythm. You do kind of get into the stretch after a while, and it's tough if you've been in the windup a while. He wasn't in the windup that long.
And the count full now on Hopp. The stadium opened in 1966. Hard to believe it's that old. It's the 4th oldest stadium active in Major League Baseball right now. Always lots of kids here. They renovated the place in the late 90s. Runner goes. Strike 3 called. Throw down. And it's a strike him out. Throw him out. Inning ending. Double play. The other Sunday standouts after a few near misses, Patrick Corbin has that elusive 10th win of the season. Arizona sweeps Colorado. Michael Brantley with a couple of home runs as the Indians pick up a much-needed win and move back within 2.5 of the Tigers in spite of Miguel Cabrera having another great day, 4 for 4, including a home run and a major league leading .368 batting average.
And he grabbed it back. Stolen base for Miggy.
He's sneaky. Every now and again, it's almost like a delayed steal sometimes. He'll surprise you.
Sometimes it's delayed steal when it's not a delayed steal.
A lot of interesting games around the majors today, including the Orioles. Adam Jones with a 2-run home run in the 9th inning off Mariano Rivera. And the Orioles beat the Yankees 2-1, ending the Yankees' 6-game winning streak.
I don't know how many more chances you're going to give this Rivera guy to prove he can be a closer.
They've been more than patient.
I mean, 20 years. They've given him 20 years.
The Phillies got another home run from Dominic Brown, his 23rd. They beat the Braves 7-3, taking 2 out of 3 in that series. Ground ball down to first. Easy play for Hop, and Ellsbury is retired. Speaking of the Phillies, you can see them tomorrow night, 7 Eastern, right here on ESPN. Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA as the Phillies host the Nationals, who were victorious today, beating San Diego 11-7. Oakland and Pittsburgh. Wednesday Night Baseball brought to you by T-Mobile. And then 1 week from tonight, we will be at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell, and expecting an all-star pitching matchup of Adam Wainwright and Travis Wood. So a big week of baseball, getting a chance to see the A's and Pirates, 2 teams having great seasons. The A's leading the American League West. The Pirates right now with the best record in baseball, depending on what the Red Sox do tonight. The best record in baseball since the 1st of July last year for the Oakland A's. The reigning American League West Division champs as well. And the Pirates with the best team ERA in all of baseball. Well represented at the All-Star game as well. Shucked into foul territory, and Nava is retired for out number 2.
I think it's great. It shows you that baseball, there's starting to be some parity in baseball. It's not, the high money teams that are getting in and playing in the postseason. And if the Pirates can continue, they've collapsed the last couple of years in the second half of the season. And Oakland, who would have thought we would put them on the air? Oakland and Pittsburgh, but yet here they are because they're 2 of the better teams in baseball and they deserve it.
Yep. 2 down, nobody on. Here's Dustin Pedroia. Hit a screamer down to third, lined out his first time up. You talk about depth, and the Pirates appear to have it. They've withstood some injuries on their pitching staff, still have some great overall numbers. Pedro Alvarez has been on a power tear the last several weeks for the Pirates.
A.J. Burnett came back today.
Yep. 3 awfully good teams in the National League Central. The Cardinals completed a sweep of the Marlins today, so those 2 teams are in a dead heat right now, and the Reds are there just 3.5 back. Little concern in St. Louis, though, about the knee of Yadier Molina.
That would be a huge loss. The way we've always known that he could play defensively, but the way his offense has really come around.
If he's out for any, there's no way to replace him. No. If he's out for an extended period, that's could spell doom for the Cardinals.
And some tests today. No structural damage in the knee for one of the game's most indispensable players. So here's Pedroia again on an 0-2 pitch, lined out hard to third his first time up. He is 1-2 now. He has the best record in the American League batting with 2 strikes. And that just doesn't mean 0-2. That's 0-2, 1-2, 2-2, or 3-2. How does a guy who swings so hard, Kruk, do so well with 2 strikes?
Well, because he keeps the barrel of the bat through the strike zone for so long, and he's not afraid to go the other way. And, when you watch him hit, there's nothing about it that you would say textbook. He bails, he jumps, both feet are moving sometimes, at different points in the at-bat. The back foot will run up in front of the front foot, or even with the front foot. But what he does is he keeps the barrel of the bat in the strike zone, and he can hit bad pitches, Dan. And, a lot of times with 2 strikes, you're not going to get a strike to hit. He can hit the ball out of the strike zone.
Takes a couple down low, full count.
And he is a pearl. Off camera, he's a beauty. About a delight to talk to as you could find. But you know what? One of the more accommodating. I told him, look, in a couple weeks we're going to Boston to do a game after the All-Star break. I said, I'm going to need about an hour and a half with you on camera. And he goes, yeah, man, whatever you need. I said, I don't think I have an hour and a half worth of preparation for this guy.
Ground ball down to third, backhanded by Callaspo, dug out by Hop. And the inning is over. The Red Sox go in order to the bottom of the third. Angels up 1-0. John Kruk, Oral Hershiser, Buster Olney. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. The Red Sox and the Angels, with the Angels leading 1-0. Each of these teams come into this game having won 9 of its last 11. Hank Conger, the catcher, and the count is 0-2. For the Red Sox, that 9 of 11 has kind of opened things up just a little bit in the American League East, although the Yankees had won 6 in a row before losing today. For the Angels, they're just trying to scratch and claw back to the 500 mark and then kind of take stock of where they are. As Conger's gone on 3 pitches, that's 5 strikeouts already for Lackey. One good thing, I guess, guys, for the Angels, the schedule is tough in the second half, but they're playing a couple of teams they're trying to chase down. They've got 13 games left against the Rangers and 13 games left against the A's.
That's all you can ask for when you struggle coming out of the gate like the Angels did. How can we get back in this? Well, if they were getting beat early in the season by Texas and by Oakland, and they don't play them that much the second half, it could be a lot more difficult. It's going to be difficult anyway because those teams are really good. But they have a chance.
Great play by Holt at third, 2 down.
They're 3 games below 500 for the Angels. As Mike Scioscia tries to describe it, they want to get back to sea level. If they keep hitting the ball this hard, they will get back to sea level. But some outstanding defense down there at third base was absolutely amazing. That play right there by Holt.
Well, that was the first thing that John Farrell told us when we asked him about Brock Holt. What do you see? He said he's a great athlete and he can play all the infield positions. Well, he just showed it right there.
So just like that, 2 down and back to the top of the order for J.B. Shuck. Shuck struck out his first time up. Peter Borges on the DL with a fractured wrist, so Shuck getting an opportunity to play. He goes to left. That means Trout's a center fielder. When Borges is healthy, Trout's a left fielder.
Shuck's been pretty good for this team, hitting almost 300 since he's taken over for the injury to Borges, and he gets on base in front of Trout. We got action.
Bounces one through the right side. Now Trout. A home run to right center his first time up, his 15th of the season. And a fastball over the outside edge, 0-1.
Same pitch that he hit for a home run. A lot of times hitters will sit the opposite pitch after they hit a home run, the last at bat on the pitch.
Good slider, 0-2. Runner goes. Throw down a little bit high, and Shuck steals it, his third of the season.
Mike Scioscia gets aggressive. As soon as Trout gets 2 strikes on him, might as well take the chance on the stolen base. If you get thrown out, what's the big deal about having Mike Trout lead off with Albert Pujols and Josh Hamilton coming up? Gets a good jump. John, you said he's hitting 300, but he's also running the bases well.
Well, and that's big because that was an easy pitch for LaVarnway to throw on. A pitch up and away. It's more like a pitch out than it was anything, and Shuck beat it pretty easily.
Now, Mike Trout is a very, very good low ball hitter. He showed that on his home run, how he can lift that low pitch. The place John Lackey has not gone is up the ladder, and that's where he's a little colder. When he's in his down streaks as a hitter, it's when he chases that high pitch.
Good stop there by LaVarnway.
I don't think there's any question this is the most exciting player in baseball. And I know, Yusel Puig is taking that, trying to take that away from him. But, for a season and a half, he's been as good as anyone.
I think you're right, John. And to think of the things that he has done coming up last year and energizing the team, then making the All-Star team, second in the MVP voting, comes in with a threat of the sophomore slump. Starts in the All-Star game, carrying the team really with Albert and Josh really not playing up to their potential.
I think this is an interesting pitch, and I think that's why Lackey called LaVarnway out, because he got Albert, he struck Albert out, made Albert look pretty bad in his first at bat. Of course, Trout with the home run. This might be one of those, like you said, or let's elevate or bounce and see if he'll chase. If not, we'll go after Albert.
I don't think Lackey wants to throw a strike here. I think he wants to see if he can get Trout to chase.
Trout saying that the ball hit the ground. The umpire disagrees. So it's a strikeout, and the inning is over at the end of 3. Still 1-0 Angels.
innings. Buster Olney with Angel pitching coach Mike Butcher.
Mike Butcher, Jared Weaver, 3 scoreless innings. He's been trying to make some adjustments with his delivery. Tell me what he's trying to do.
Really just trying to get more online. You know, his hips were a little bit tight early on, coming after the injury of the left elbow, and just trying to get a little bit more online right now, So he's been a lot better, just working on more flexibility than anything else.
How is that going to help him?
I think it's going to help him get online, get on time with his delivery, be able to repeat pitches better, a little bit less grind on the body overall, and I think it's going to enable him to get out there and be healthy for us for a long time to come.
Mike, thanks.
You got it. Thank you.
Facing David Ortiz here in the 4th inning. A ball and a strike to count of the Red Sox DH, who struck out back in the 1st. Weaver got out of a 1st and 3rd nobody out jam in the 1st inning. Gave up a 1-out single in the 2nd. Got the Red Sox in order in the 3rd. No swing, and it's 2 balls and a strike on Ortiz. Ibar on to first in time to get Ortiz 1 down. Well, this is a very emotional time for Jared Weaver. His wife gave birth to the couple's first child on July the 5th, and the baby boy is named Aiden in honor of Nick Aidenhart. And Angel fans certainly remember, and I'm sure many baseball fans remember, that Nick Aidenhart was a teammate of Jared Weaver's, a young pitcher with a lot of promise, who back in 2009 was killed in a car accident on the night after he started a game. He and 2 friends who were in a car with him were killed in a car accident. Jared Weaver, Nick Aidenhart, very close, and now his son bears the name.
Yeah, they were very close, and he was just getting ready, Nick, to move in with Jared. And he was going to mentor him and really liked the young man a lot, and writes his initials on the mound before every half inning. And really is commemorating and remembering his life by naming his son Aiden.
And this is what Oral was referencing. An A for his late teammate Nick Aidenhart. One to Napoli. Up high, ball 2.
And what John Lackey did for Jared Weaver, taking him under his wing, teaching him the ropes of big league baseball, Weaver was going to do that with Nick Aidenhart, and sadly his life was taken.
Three and 1 the count on Napoli. He struck out his first time up. Angels up 1-0 here in the 4th inning. And Weaver walks him. You can visit Gamecast at ESPN.com/MLB/scores. Find tonight's game, then click on the Gamecast link. You'll find up-to-the advanced stats on tonight's game, multiple Twitter feeds, including that of Buster Olney, who is taking questions and answering them right now on his extremely popular Twitter feed. Keep Buster busy. There he is. Never a down moment, never a quiet moment for Buster Olney. See, he's here. He's pretending he's not hearing us, but we can see your IFP. We can see you're listening to us. So fire away. Give Buster some questions here. Keep him occupied. The strike taken by Mike Karp. July's a busy time for Buster. Trade deadline coming up at the end of the month. All kinds of speculation about what every team is looking for. Are they buyers? Are they sellers? Jerry Dipoto, the GM of the Angels, saying recently, we're not buyers, we're not sellers, we're the Angels. That the team they put together is the team they think they're going to go with. And as Mike Scioscia told us, if Pujols and Hamilton have a better second half, that'll help. But also hoping to get back guys like Jason Vargas, Tommy Hansen, Sean Burnett, Peter Borges. They got some pretty good players on the DL right now.
Yeah, those are good trades if they come back healthy and perform like they're capable. And you don't have to lose any prospects for them.
No, they're some of the best trades you make is when people get healthy, that you don't lose anybody. And Vargas was throwing the ball great before he went on the DL.
Had a blood clot removed from his armpit. And they're hoping to get him back potentially by the end of the month. A little pressure here in Anaheim, obviously. I mean, they've spent a ton of money the last couple of years, bringing in Pujols before last year, bringing in Hamilton before this year. They haven't made the playoffs any of the last 3 years.
C.J. Wilson, they brought him in along with Albert.
Mike Scioscia saying they've got time. They've just got to play better than they've played in the first half. Wow. Great changeup there by Weaver to get Carp. 2 down. Back in 2002 as the wild card, the Angels went on to win the World Series. And as we mentioned, John Lackey started Game 7 of the World Series as a rookie. Artie Moreno bought the team in 2003. And from 2004 through 2009, they won 5 American League West Division titles in a 6-year span, but have not made the postseason since. And it's a different kind of a team. It used to be, first to third more than any team in baseball. A lot of bunting, moving runners. And I think you used the phrase, Crucky, there'll be some action. Whenever anybody got on, there was action for the Angels. That doesn't happen as much anymore. And fundamentally, defensively, too, they've committed more errors than any team in baseball this year. You just don't associate these kinds of issues with the Angels, but they're struggling in the field, struggling on the base paths this year.
You turn the clock back to David Eckstein, Sean Figgins, Darren Erstad, those kind of guys. That's where Mike Scioscia really got the reputation of being a National League manager in the American League. Now they're a little bit more station to station, waiting for the big fly.
Yeah, that's, when you look at their lineup, Kendrick can run a little bit, Ibar can run a little bit. Trout and Borges can both fly. I mean, they have guys who can run. You wonder sometimes the guys in the middle of the lineup, and a lot of them don't, that they want to focus on the pitcher and they don't want to have distractions with runners running and guys in motion running, especially from second base. And you wonder if that's, maybe possibly that could be hamstringing some of this flexibility in the offense for Mike Scioscia. Josh Hamilton can run.
Fouled off in the count 2-2.
And if you're staying still for the big boppers and then the big boppers aren't producing, that it can hurt the offense in a big way.
There's one of them. You feel bad because he has no legs underneath him. He's, swinging with his arms. You see him trying to cheat, getting the balls. He's off balance. 3 years ago, at the start of his career, 3 years ago, rarely, if ever, was he off balance. Now it's a lot.
And a swing and a miss by Lavarnway to win the inning. Strikeout number 5 for Jared Weaver. And at the end of 3.5 here in Anaheim, it remains 1-0 Angels. Stadium, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. And ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by the makers of One-A-Day Men's, the official multivitamin of MLB, specially formulated for men. And Little Caesars, home of the large $5 hot and ready pepperoni pizza. They're always fresh out of the oven, ready when you are. The run coming on that home run by Mike Trout back in the first. Albert Pujols will lead off the fourth. John Lackey, the former Angel, on the mound for the Red Sox. Pujols struck out his first time up. DHing almost exclusively recently, as we mentioned, because of the plantar fasciitis and the knees, the sore right knee, and the plantar fasciitis in the left foot. Crookie, how tough is it on a hitter when you just don't have a good base underneath you with your legs?
Well, and that's what I was saying last inning. You know, you see him off balance a lot because he doesn't have his legs, and your hips, that gets your bat through the zone more so than your hands, because your hips fire and your hands come with it. And Albert right now can't use that bottom half, so you see him arm swinging a lot. He's reaching for balls a lot because, you know, he has to cheat on fastballs now because his legs don't fire like they used to.
Got a fastball, but he fouled it off. Meanwhile, for Albert Pujols, kind of a continuing trend in recent years. The end of his time with the Cardinals, the first couple of years here with the Angels, the power diminishing year by year. Home runs fewer and farther between with each passing season. Shallow left for out number one. Josh Hamilton coming up. Let's take a look now at Hot Zone, brought to you by T-Mobile.
And we're going to show you two hot zones. Josh Hamilton back in 2010, his MVP season. Take a look at all the red. You could not get him out in the strike zone and even some places. So above 350s red, below 250. But take a look at this year. Not very much red there. Just middle away is the only place he's hitting above 350 in the strike zone. And that's not a small sampling. Here we go, coming into the All-Star break, and he has really struggled. Had a big home run for him last night, the 11th, to win it. He got a slider right down the middle last night that he deposited in the right field bleachers to win the game.
Big shift on, 3 on the right side, and that's Pedroia way out in right field. It's the third baseman, Holt, who's playing where the second baseman normally would. That allows the shortstop, Iglesias, to stay where he normally plays. So you're displacing really 2 infielders instead of 3 with this particular alignment. Two and 2. Hamilton struck out his first time up, comes into tonight riding an 11-game hitting streak. Takes low, full count.
And if you're Mike Scioscia, whether he makes an out or not, you have to be happy with that take right there, Oral, because that was a pitch pretty much this whole season he's been swinging at with 2 strikes, chasing pitches out of the zone and walking. That was a really good take by him.
As the season has progressed, he's gotten a little bit more patient. Not sure Lackey still wants to give in to him. He wants to look like a strike, end up a ball with Hamilton's aggressiveness.
Oh, he thought it was ball 4. But Lackey gets the call, 2 down. Mike Scioscia didn't like it. K-Zone didn't agree with it either.
Well, Mike Scioscia is arguing for his hitter because Hamilton finally looked like he had a really high quality at bat as far as taking borderline pitches and keeping his aggressiveness down and waiting for strikes. And he would love his hitter to get rewarded for that discipline instead of coming back to the bench and being frustrated. Now he's got a chance that his hitter comes out of that discipline and goes up flailing because the umpire's got a wide zone.
That's not a look that says I agree with that call.
breaking ball they're trying to backdoor. I said he was trying to take a strike and make it look like a ball. Really what they try to do is throw a ball and then drop it in for a strike, and Soch says no way.
Rockies falling behind 3-0 on Howie Kendrick, not a member of the All-Star team, having a big first half. In the top 10 in the American League in batting, 11 homers, 40 RBIs, but second base is a deep position in the American League. Dustin Pedroia is going. Robinson Cano of the Yankees is starting. Jason Kipnis of the Indians, who's been on a tear, he's going as well. And Ben Zobrist of the Rays is going as kind of a utility guy. He can play a lot of different places, but second base is one of them. So no room for Kendrick on the team. Bounces one past the mound. Iglesias up with it. And the inning is over. 3 up and 3 down. Go the Angels. End of 4. 1-0. Home team. Presented by Taco Bell. We go to the top of the 5th on a warm night here in Southern California. Dan Schulman, Oral Hershiser, John Kruk, and Buster Olney. A 1-0 lead for the Angels. Good pitching matchup between John Lackey and Jared Weaver, who faces 8-9-1. Brock Holt, Jose Iglesias, and Jacoby Ellsbury here in the 5th. Weaver's allowed 3 hits, 1 walk, and has struck out 5 through 4 innings of work. A strike, 2-1.
It's like a battle of wills between the Red Sox lineup and Weaver. Weaver loves to live on the edges, and the Red Sox love to make you throw pitches, throw strikes.
I think it tells you how tough a competitor the Weaver is, too. You get behind this high-powered offense that the Red Sox has continually, but yet he keeps getting out. He got out of a jam in the first inning, and he's making great pitches when he has to.
He was well into the 40s in his pitch count at the end of 2. He's at 80 right now, working to the first batter of the 5th inning. And another 3-2 count.
He's a master of the philosophy of making the ball look like a strike and end up on the edge or be on a ball. He's got great horizontal movement with his fastball, and he's got real nice bend with the breaking pitch. And then he can pull the string with the changeup.
The Red Sox lead the majors in pitches seen per plate appearance. 6 full counts already tonight. The Red Sox averaging better than 4 pitches per plate appearance on the season. And about 5 here tonight. A little bit high with a breaking ball and a leadoff walk.
Well, that was on the edge and it was a ball, but he's been very effective with both his fastball and his breaking ball tonight. The fastball that he can run in, run away from lefties, and then the breaking ball that he's got like a sweeper going tonight that he can hit the edges on both sides of the plate, but he is not going to give in to you even if he falls behind.
So a leadoff man aboard for the Red Sox in the 5th, and here's Jose Iglesias, who grounded out his first time up.
I wonder if John Farrell might put Holt in motion. He's a great athlete. He said he could steal a base in our meeting with him today, and Iglesias, of course, hitting over 400. You know he can put the ball in play. Problem is Weaver's not had great command, so it's hit or miss with the hit and run.
Showing bunts, and he fouls it back into the screen.
You don't mean Weaver doesn't have great command as much as you mean not necessarily going to try and throw a strike. He's around the plate. He's doing what he wants with the ball, but he's not necessarily going to give you a cookie and for sure a fastball.
Popped him up. 1 down. The 2013 Chevrolet Home Run Derby comes your way on a Monday the 15th right here on ESPN at 8 Eastern. We know Robinson Cano and David Wright will be there. They're the captains of the respective teams. The MLB All-Star Red Carpet Show presented by Chevrolet on the MLB Network on Tuesday afternoon. And then the All-Star Game itself on Fox Tuesday evening, 7:30 Eastern Time from Citi Field in New York. And you will see for the Red Sox, David Ortiz, Dustin Pedroia, Clay Buchholz will be there but not active. Mike Trout is the only Angel representative. By the way, Boston reliever Koji Uehara is one of the final 5. The fans could vote for the last spot on both the American League and the National League All-Star team. Koji Uehara is on that list, one of 5 relief pitchers on the list for the last spot in the American League. And in the National League, the guy who's been getting talked about as much as anybody in baseball, Yasiel Puig of the Dodgers, is one of the final 5 for that last spot on the National League team. And you got to believe with the attention he's getting and how excited baseball fans are about him that he's going to get voted in and get that spot.
Yeah, you would think he is. And you know, look, what he's done, what he can do, especially not being a starter, coming off the bench, he can hit the ball out of the ballpark. He can steal a base, which is not at a premium in all-star games. But if the game is important and it's about winning the game, I mean, who would you rather have in there? I mean, he can do a lot of things on a baseball field. Does he deserve it because he's only been here a month? You know, again, this is the fan vote, and the fans want him in. He should be in.
Oral, what do you think about it?
Well, who could do the most off the National League bench? And if the last 27 World Series, 22 were won by the home field with the home field advantage. So it's an important game. And so he can come off the bench and hit. He can come off the bench and make a diving catch in defense. He can come in and pinch run and steal a bag. He can pinch run at second base and definitely score on any single almost. So if you need to win the game and you're looking out there at tools, and I'm a fan, I'm voting him in.
Ball and a strike to count on Jacoby Ellsbury. Puig was named the National League Rookie of the Month and Player of the Month in the month of June. Had 44 hits in the month. Had 2 more hits today as the Dodgers beat the Giants 4-1, and he has kind of taken the baseball world by storm in the last 5 weeks or so.
1-1 game in the late innings. He made a diving catch in right field that saved a potential rally for the Giants, and they came back and got 3 in the 9th.
Which he led off with the hit.
Yep.
I mean, it is exciting, though, when you see a guy like him, Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, Manny Machado, the play he made today. If anyone hasn't seen that, you got to go back and see that play he made at third base today for the Orioles against the Yankees. Unbelievable play. But this game is so exciting now, to me, more exciting than ever because of those 4 players.
Red Sox fan making some noise here. Angels fans trying to drown him out. Full count on Ellsbury, and you got to believe that Holt's probably running on this pitch.
I don't think there's any question he's going to be running here. And this is where, as a hitter, Ellsbury, you have to be still very conscious of ball 4, because a lot of guys, when a guy's put in motion, they'll swing at a ball out of the zone, trying to protect the runner and trying to get a hit with the infielders moving.
There he goes. Pitch swung on, hit sharply to short. Quick throw to second. They get him, and on to first. The inning-ending double play. Ibar and Kendrick doing a great job around the bag, and the inning is over. Angels leading the Red Sox 1-0. That Mike Trout home run in the first inning. Still the only run of the ballgame. Alberto Callaspo leads it off for the Angels. After Callaspo, it'll be Brad Hopp and Hank Conger, 6, 7, and 8 in Mike Scioscia's lineup. Chases 0-2. Lays off this time as Lackey tried to throw the same pitch in the same spot.
The slider his is outstanding. Those are the two that break bigger. He's got one that he throws up and in to lefties. It's more of a cutter. They are just disappearing at 87, 88 miles an hour.
And he catches the inside corner with a fastball for out number 1. So Howie Kendrick and Eric Ibar in that double play. Tough one, guys, with a runner going.
Well, they picked it right. You saw Kendrick going over slowly to cover second. Normally, with the left-handed hitter, the second baseman would stay and the shortstop would cover. But you look at the great turn. Look at Kendrick, how he protects himself with the base. I mean, Holt got a pretty good jump. That ball was hit so hard. But Kendrick got to the backside of the base where Holt couldn't get to him. The base protected him, and he made a great strong throw to first baseman Hop for the double play. But they picked the right guy to cover. And normally it's the shortstop who would cover with the left-handed hitter. And he hit it right to Ibar.
Hop with a ground ball to second. 2 down.
For a guy who really gets talked poorly about his defense, he's had an unbelievable night defensively. Made a play in the second inning on a diving stop to his left on a Holt ground ball. Now that hanging in there in that double play.
See, the shadow's not really an issue anymore. It's cooled off some here in Anaheim. Just little streaks of sunlight out in deep right field, and then one strip running from the right field foul line over towards straightaway center field. But by and large, not nearly the issue that it was a couple of innings ago. 2 outs for Hank Conger, who struck out his first time. Lackey has 8 strikeouts through 4 2/3.
It shows you how impressive he's been and how impressive Mike Trout has been to get that 2-strike fastball away for a home run. It's a starting all-star outfield in the American League team to make this game a 1-0 game. Other than that, both pitchers have been dominant. Weaver pitched out of a jam in the first inning, first and third. Mike Trout was a jam all by himself when he steps in the batter's box.
15th home run of the season.
Wow.
A good miss.
Just really great arm action and velocity coming out of John Lackey's arm. It's like you turn back the clock about 4 or 5 years.
Wow. A swing and a belt. Hank Conger makes it 2-0.
You see the open stance by Conger, and that's a pitch right down the middle, and that's just a back leg bail and wail. I mean, you look at the hip fly out. I mean, if that's a fastball middle in, he's got a chance. If it's middle away, might hit it off the end of the bat. There was nothing about that swing that said anything but a home run.
Number 6 on the season for Conger to make it 2-0 Angels. So 2 solo home runs accounting for all the offense in tonight's game. And Ibar chops it foul 0-2.
You look at that swing, look at the bottom leg, the back leg, the power that generates from the hips. And that's just a vicious uppercut. And his first at bat when he struck out, he had the same swings. He just missed them. Well, this one he connects, and this is the result.
And frustration for John Lackey. Now 2 runs down. Holt back to his feet. Got him. Nice play. Second good play, both with Holt robbing Ibar. But another run for the Angels here in the 5th as Hank Conger goes deep into the right field bleachers. And at the end of 5, the Angels now lead the Red Sox 2-0. Sox Jed Lowry also homered in that game for the A's. The Yankees, who had won 6 in a row until the loss today, are hoping to get back at some point soon. Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, and maybe even a Michael Pineda to bolster that rotation. And that winning streak the Yankees put together this week, even with the loss today, they find themselves right now 5.5 back of the Red Sox, pending the outcome of this game tonight. And it's a real dogfight for second in the American League East between the Yankees, the Orioles, and the Tampa Bay Rays, who completed a sweep of the White Sox today. David Price got the win. And all of a sudden, guys, the Rays have won 8 out of 9.
Price back in the rotation. Longoria healthy and producing. Hellickson, Moore.
Nava, deep left center. Room for Trout. So a long loud out here to begin the 6th. Dustin Pedroia will come up now as we take a look at his hot zone, brought to you by T-Mobile.
Well, Dan, Dustin Pedroia's hot zone is pretty much, if you throw a strike, he's going to get a good pass at it. But you look at it, the batting average in the red to 250, up and in. Most guys can't handle that pitch. Because he bails a little bit and he keeps the barrel in the zone, he can get to that pitch, and that's why he hits it so well. But he also has the innate ability, being as short as he is, to get to the outside pitch and still get hits off of that. So that's what makes him so difficult to pitch to. It's what makes him a great player.
So how does a guy who's 5'8", 5'9" cover so much of the strikes?
That's a question I'm going to ask him when I talk to him in a couple weeks, in that hour I told him I needed with him. It's just, I think he's a great guesser. I think he looks for pitches in his zone, and when he gets it, he can, when he does get a pitch he likes, he puts it in play.
Usually hard.
Usually very hard.
Ground ball to second. And Pedroia retired, 2 down. 0 for 3 on the night. And so far, Jared Weaver's done a very nice job against Pedroia and Ortiz. They're a combined 0 for 5. Big Papi has struck out and grounded out. Has some of the biggest numbers that any DH has ever had. In most categories, the biggest numbers that any DH has ever had. And closing in fast on Harold Baines for the most hits ever as a DH. Six hits back of Harold Baines for the most hits ever as a DH. Already the most home runs and RBIs as a designated hitter. You think of guys, Edgar Martinez is obviously a guy you think of.
Paul Molitor at the end of his career.
Yeah. Jim Thome, DH for many, many years at the end of his career.
There's some guys that should be DHs.
Easy play for Hop. And a 3-up, 3-down inning for Jared Weaver. 6, Angels 2, Red Sox nothing. Top of the order for the Angels, J.B. Shuck, Mike Trout, Albert Pujols. Shuck 1 for 2.
It's a huge inning for John Lackey and the Red Sox. I know they haven't scored, but it's really a shutdown inning. That 2 solo homers, and you're coming into the heart of the order. You want to keep the game close.
At the knees, 2-1. There's Trout waiting on deck. Homered in the first. Hank Conger homered in the fifth. That's it for the offense tonight. And the leadoff man retired.
Well, here's Mike Trout in the first inning getting the Angels on the board. That was a really, really good pitch, Earl, to a man who's right at that point was just better than John Lackey.
Well, Lackey with the repaired elbow and the new body, he really attacks hitters, and especially when they can only hit a solo shot. Of the 13 home runs he's given up this year, 11 are solo shots. So that tells you he attacks, but he can still make pitches when there's runners on base.
You know, he's so good at such a young age, just 21 years of age. But what's the next step? Players are always working to get better at things. He's so good in so many ways. Is there anything? What would you tell him if you were to counsel him about what that next step is for him?
I think, look, I can't tell him anything about the way he plays. I never was ever close to being as talented as Mike Trout is. But I think what I would prepare him for if I was a coach or a manager of his team was you're eventually going to hit third or fourth in our lineup. Right. And prepare yourself to be an RBI guy. Prepare yourself to figure out how to drive in runs, big runs, key hits when we need him, because eventually Albert and Josh aren't going to be that guy anymore, and he's going to have to step into that role.
Nice play by Pedroia to get Trout. So do you see the 25 homer, 45 steal guy maybe becoming more homers and RBIs, but fewer steals in the next few years?
One thing he hasn't done, he hasn't come out of spring training and been hot. Last year he didn't play in the big leagues coming out of spring training. This year he came out a little slow. Can you imagine if he comes out of spring training and being hot? But there's so many things that he does well that you don't learn until you're a veteran, like adjusting from pitch to pitch and at bat to at bat, what a pitcher's trying to do to you. If he ever falls into the RBI slot, third or fourth, has more situations, I think you'll just automatically see the production go up because he already knows that part of the game.
And you mentioned Crucky, Harper, Trout, Machado, Puig. The crazy thing not only is how good they are, how young all of them, but they're all 22 or under.
Well, Dan, and the thing is that, you know, a lot of young kids come up, and this is where they have to hit in the lineup. And these guys can hit leadoff, all four of them. If you had to hit them leadoff, all four of them eventually are going to hit third or fourth. Yep. Harper's already there. Puig will be there someday. Trout will be there, and Machado is hitting second now because they're such a power hitting offense. You know, what's he got? 30, almost 40 doubles, 39 doubles already. I mean, he's going to be a guy that's going to be a 30 homer, 110 RBI guy pretty much every year. So, you know, I tell you, if I was one of those, any of those four teams, I'm delighted with my options with these gentlemen.
And by the way, find tonight on SportsCenter, find the play Machado made at third base today for the Orioles. Not just a good offensive player.
When he first came to the big leagues, Buck Showalter brought him up. He was a natural shortstop, and they put him at third base because they had to solidify third base. They brought him up for his glove, and they said, we can wait on the bat with Manny Machado.
Well, they did. They waited about 2 months. You know how patient Buck is. That's long enough. Let's move him to second.
Yes, he did, says home plate umpire Mike Winters. Pujols surprised He thought it was ball 3 and saying, at least give me an appeal here, but it's a swing and it's 2-2.
Yeah, that's a tough one. You know, I've talked to so many umpires about the check swing and how a home plate umpire can call it. If you're looking at the strike, you're looking at the ball to determine whether it's ball or strike, the movement of it. How can you see if a bat is a swing? How can you see if a guy swings? And I've talked to umpires, he said, look, off the record, we don't know. We're guessing. It's an educated guess, but it's a guess.
So that's off the record.
Well, it's on it now, but I'm not telling you who told me.
And a base hit through the right side.
But you see Lackey right there at the four-seamer. He's trying to throw it by Albert with 2 strikes on him, and he just kind of catches too much of the plate. But that was a 2-strike swing by Albert Pujols. That's why he doesn't strike out a lot. You look at the inside-out swing. He's staying on that ball because he doesn't want to strike out. You put in play, you got a chance, and right there he found a hole because of the little shift they had on. He got this base hit and gets Hamilton up here with 2 outs. He has a hitting streak.
11-game hitting streak entering tonight's game. Struck out swinging in the first, struck out looking in the fourth.
One thing I noticed about that slow motion replay is how quick Albert is getting off his back leg, though. That right knee is not torquing, and the right foot didn't even hardly turn at all. He's almost sliding the back leg forward to allow the turn. You watch the heel as it comes up. He really doesn't. See, he takes the weight off that knee and then puts the weight back on it.
He used to spin on that back leg hard, and that's where he got that torque and the bat speed, because that back hip was flying through the zone and the hands come with it. Now it's just he's lifting it up, and
the front side didn't firm up very much either because of the plantar fasciitis in the left foot. So he's really hitting with no legs. The back leg can't turn and keep pressure there to keep the weight back and turn the hips through, and the front leg can't take torque and the pressure of the weight transfer.
And you know, we're not making excuses for Albert Pujols, but he should be on the disabled list. He really should, but he's playing because, you know, and now he's running.
He's fouled by Hamilton.
He's running. You know, you talk about he should be on the disabled list. You watch him drag the legs back to first base, but
well, they dropped Napoli back off of him, and Albert said, you know what, if you're going to back off of me, I'm going to take it.
You just wonder what wear and tear he's putting on the left foot and the right knee, and if it's going to be this prolonged use when he's semi-hurt. That he's got 8 years left on this contract with the Angels.
Now he'll be running on the pitch.
What's he going to look like in 3 years trying to run? What's he going to look like in 5 years?
Well, he has to get it fixed. He has to get his knee fixed probably, and his foot fixed. And you know, you hope he comes back to be somewhat like he was a couple years ago.
We all hope that for sure.
Well, I bet the Angels hope more than we do.
Inside, ball 4. And Pujols comes around to third.
Well, with the shift, there was no third baseman, and they are very fortunate. Albert Pujols, makes a heads-up play, and the Red Sox get lucky. If this ball doesn't hit Iglesias when the throw goes to third, when Lackey finally realizes he's coming around, watch Pujols make the turn. He sees the shift, and they've got their heads down. He says, I can beat him over there. But this ball hits Iglesias in the right knee. This tells you how his mind is always in the game. He could care less how his body feels. It hits Albert, then Iglesias.
Yeah, very lucky that ball didn't go down the left field line. And, you know, that's just... He saw where Iglesias was. He saw Iglesias wasn't breaking to third, which after a walk, you have to understand that Holt's not there anymore. Someone has to get over there. Iglesias, if he'd have taken 2 or 3 steps toward third, he'd have froze Albert. But he didn't, and Albert took advantage of it.
Well, they had a shot at a run because of the defense he forced him to play, but now Kendrick has got a big right side hole because instead of first and second, you got first and third.
And a guy who can inside out a ball the other way opens up a hole and could get a run here for the Angels.
So some aggressive base running by Albert Pujols. First and third, 2 down. The Angels already up 2-0 here in the 6th. And Kendrick up 0 for 2. Ran that one right in on his hands. 1-2 on Kendrick.
This is that up and in fastball. Lackey just kind of takes a two-seamer and takes it up there and starts running in on the hands of Kendrick. It's called In Your Kitchen.
Long inning for Lackey. As you can see, 24 pitches already this inning, nearing 100 on the night. Pitching well, but has been victimized by a couple of solo home runs. Now trying to get out of this jam to keep it close. Runner goes from first, and no throw.
Yeah, we came into this game advertising the Red Sox as the grinders and the ball players and very athletic, but the Angels are taking it to them today. They have been outstanding on the mound with Jared Weaver. They've been aggressive on the base pass with Albert, even with 2 bad legs. Josh Hamilton now taking the base. They've been unbelievable on defense. And they're winning 2-0. They've got a threat here to spread it out.
This is the World Series Angels. First to third on a walk.
Yeah.
Stolen base by your 4th hitter.
Production by your backup catcher.
It was expected to be an explosive offense this year. Pujols, Hamilton, to Mark Trumbo, who's not in the lineup tonight. Trout, of course. They've been okay. 7th in the American League in runs scored, so pretty much middle of the pack. Entering the game tonight.
Well, Mike Scioscia prides himself on preparing his team to be opportunistic, put pressure on the opposing team, and that's what they're doing tonight.
Full count.
John Lackey just crossed over the 101 pitch mark right there at 101. John Farrell looking on right there, and he's been going fastball in to Kendrick. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 3-2 breaking ball here with first base open.
Alfredo Aceves up in the Boston pen, just called up by the Red Sox. Andrew Miller placed on the DL today after suffering a foot injury last night. Three-2. Fouled off the end of the bat.
Where you can come right back with the same pitch, take a little off, like he's got the cutter, the slider, and then a slower slider. He knows how hard he threw the last one. He could take a little off. He had him out in front that one. Take a little more, get him to chase, or do you come right back inside?
Long inning continues. Lackey wants a word with LeVarn Way on this all-important pitch. Sharply hit, but right at Iglesias. And Lackey gets out of it. Pujols and Hamilton stranded. Interesting inning for the Angels, especially Pujols taking third after the walk with the shift on. Still got a trick up his sleeve. Seventh inning on Sunday Night Baseball, with the Angels leading the Red Sox 2-0. Home run in the first for Mike Trout, home run in the fifth for Hank Conger. Good pitching duel between Jared Weaver and John Lackey. Mike Napoli leads off the seventh for Boston. Shortens up on the bat, takes a strike. Napoli tonight has struck out and walked. Just 3 hits tonight for the Red Sox off Weaver. An Ellsbury double to begin the ball game, and a ball that kind of froze J.B. Shuck, sailed over his head to the wall. Nava had a base hit. So it was first and third, nobody out in the first inning for Boston, and Weaver got out of it. Maybe the turning point of the ball game way back in the first. He gave up a single to Ryan Lavarnway in the second, and that is the last hit the Red Sox have.
Yeah, the third hitter he faced, the line out to from Pedroia to Callaspo, I think that was a turning point for Jared Weaver. Ball, first guy, Ellsbury hits the ball to left field. Should have been caught by Shuck. He missed it. Give him a double. Nava gets a single, and then he gets that line out, that hard line out by Pedroia, and I think that's what got him going.
Foul ball. Activity now in the Angels' pen. The right-hander is Dane De La Rosa, and the left-hander is Scott Downs. You can see that Weaver is over 100 pitches as he works here in the seventh. In his last start against St. Louis on Tuesday, when he pitched very well, 7 innings, 1 run, he threw 105 pitches. That is his season high. He's about to match that. This one will drop in fair. Napoli Jam comes up with a base hit to lead off the seventh. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by the all-new 2014 Chevrolet Impala, which proudly supports the craft of baseball. Learn more at ChevyBaseball.com. And CenturyLink, your link to what's next. Guessing, Crucky, you never surfed?
No.
Shane Victorino might have surfed.
Oh, for sure.
Probably. I would imagine he has. I guess there was good surfing in San Diego when I was playing there, but yeah. I think Tim Flannery once joked that I would need a garage door to hold me up. That was the look. That's why I headed to the ballpark every day in San Diego. Little headband. Didn't wear the Angels shirt, but
there's the flying Hawaiian.
He's probably ridden a wave or two.
Yeah. Ball and a strike on a Mike Carp. A couple of strikeouts tonight.
Not real good in water, Dan.
No?
No.
Or heat.
Yeah. Heat's really bad.
Yeah, heat's your enemy.
Yeah.
Heat is your kryptonite.
Among other things.
Fouled off 1-2.
They've been working on some mechanical adjustments with Jared Weaver to get more direction to home plate, really kind of frees up his hips, and it really is giving him a little more velocity. And the thing that I've noticed tonight is that change of speeds now between the slow curveball and the changeup have really got the hitters off balance. This is like the Weaver of old. The velocity of the fastball came down, and they kind of got closer together. Hitters can stay on both pitches.
And a swing and a miss as Carp strikes out for the third time tonight. MLB.TV celebrating 11 years. Watch every out-of-market regular season game live on your favorite supported mobile and connected devices with MLB.TV Premium. Visit MLB.TV for details. And go to MLBFanCave.com and pledge your NL or AL allegiance. Don't miss the action of the 2013 All-Star Game, Tuesday, July 16th. I visited the Fan Cave this week.
You did?
It's a pretty good setup they got there.
It is an interesting place.
They've got 7 young folks, young adults, whose job it is basically to watch baseball games. As LaVarnway sends one to right field, but Hamilton makes the catch on the track. 2 down. And they blog and they chat and they tweet and they promote the game. And one of them is an Angels fan. They're all fans of a specific team, and they wear their team colors. Danny's the name of the guy who's an Angels fan, and we know he's watching. And they got this huge setup, giant TV monitors all over the place. It's pretty good.
Did they know you when you walked in?
We had called ahead.
Oh, okay.
We had a whole gang.
They didn't know the voice of Sunday Night Baseball?
We had a whole gang coming. We had 9 dads, 9 boys.
Maybe if they'd have played your voice before you came in.
No, they had a little fun at my expense when I got there. So
did they?
Yeah. One of the people there, April, is from Toronto. She's a Blue Jay fan. There were 7 very nice, big-time baseball fans there in Lower Manhattan at the Fan Cave who showed us a good time.
I think next year we should send Buster, Tim Kirkchin, and Pedro Gomez there
to the Fan Cave.
Let them blog and tweet and all that stuff they do. And Peter Pasquarelli.
Yeah,
that'll jump right in because that's right up his alley.
Outside, a ball and a strike on a Brock Holt. Speaking of Buster, what do you got?
Guys, I can't really see how different the MLB Fan Cave is in the life that I currently exist, okay? Especially leading up the trade deadline. You're basically in a bunker on a phone watching games.
Yeah, you're in your own cave. Their cave's a little bit fancier than your cave.
Who cut your lawn this time of year, Buster?
Down and away with a changeup. 2 balls and a strike on a Brock Holt. Weaver at 113 pitches, 8 more than he's thrown in any other start this year. Remember, missed 7 weeks after breaking a bone in his left arm back in April. De La Rosa, Downs ready if needed. And that's a base hit. Napoli will stop at second. And Mike Scioscia's on his way to the mound. He has made the call for the right-hander, De La Rosa. So Jared Weaver leaves with a lead, has a chance to pick up a win tonight if the bullpen can get the job done, and a very appreciative crowd here in Anaheim.
And Cano, New York baseball icons. And this year, captains, as the ultimate long ball celebration returns to the Big Apple. The 2013 Chevrolet Home Run Derby, July 15th on ESPN.
And we invite you to tune into SportsCenter tomorrow at 6 Eastern as Home Run Derby captains David Wright and Robinson Cano will select their teams. The Home Run Derby team selected on SportsCenter tomorrow at 6 Eastern. Got to believe that Chris Davis might be in it. He's a guy that everybody would love to see, the major league leader in home runs right now. Here, 2-0 Angels. Top 7, Dane De La Rosa out of the Angels' pen. And a strike taken by Jose Iglesias. Team leading 39th appearance of the season for De La Rosa.
Right-handers hitting .211 off him this year, and Iglesias head-to-head 0 for 2 with 1 K.
Routine fly ball right field. Inning over. Weaver likes it. Still 2-0 Angels, 7th inning stretch. over. Right center, deep, gone. Wow, a swing and a belt. Mike Trout with a home run tonight. Hank Conger as well. And the Angels have a 2-0 lead as they come up here in the bottom of the 7th. John Lackey still in the ballgame for the Red Sox. Alberto Callaspo leads it off for the Angels. A base hit and a strikeout. Activity in the Boston bullpen. Right-hander Junichi Tozawa is up. Bullpens have had to work pretty hard last night, an 11-inning game. Amazing with 7-man bullpens, you still walk into a manager's office before the game and say, who would you like to stay away from tonight? Who's been overworked lately? But starters just not going very deep into ball games for the most part anymore.
Or you're running the lineups like the Red Sox that grind out at bats. C.J. Wilson on Friday needed 121 pitches just to go 6 2/3 innings.
It's a competitor right there. He was on the ropes a few times and battled.
Nice play by Lackey. Whoops. Well, that's one way to get it done. Napoli saying, what gives? Let me get to the bag. Rucky, break this one down for us. What happened?
Well, Lackey caught it so quickly, and because his momentum takes him toward first base on his follow through, the ball was hit to his glove side, so he was leaning toward first. And when he threw it before Napoli could get to the base, but it looks like it got up in the lights or in something, down the line, because Napoli looked like he didn't see it. And you see him, he said, I didn't see it, or he wasn't watching, or one or the other. Yeah, you can see, but you can see the light in his eyes. Yeah. And when Lackey threw it right into the sun. And
well, he just went and got Pedroia's sunglasses. Those aren't his sunglasses. Pedroia gave him his, I think.
Well, he might not have noticed it before that inning. But yeah, I mean that's not a good feeling.
Trying to catch something you can't see.
Yeah, and even though the ball wasn't thrown hard enough, you still would like to see it.
Yeah. Or all these West Coast ballparks, they all offer something a little bit tricky, don't they?
Start them at 5 o'clock, which is nice for all of us. We get a little chow after the game.
It's like almost literally only where Napoli is the only spot right now where the sun is still peeking through.
He and the umpire are the only ones getting tans in this park today.
Good pitch, but he doesn't get the call. So where do those glasses come from? Pedroia says, here, take mine. I don't need them. And a swing and a miss. Hop is retired, and that is 9 strikeouts tonight for John Lackey. Kind of landed awkwardly in his follow through there, but records the out. Pitching for the team with the best offense in baseball. Always a threat to come back. Lackey, though, could get stuck with a tough luck loss despite pitching very well here tonight against his former club. Good breaking ball for a strike to Conger, who homered his last time up.
Well, he saw that vicious hack he took on his fastballs, his first at bat to strike out, and then the home run, of course. He starts him off with that little 80-mile-an-hour dewdrop.
A season high in pitches for John Lackey at 115. Well, he gets his money's worth on the swings. 3-1 on the putout to end the inning. 7 in the books. 2-0 Angels. Top of the order coming up for the Red Sox. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Mas. And in part by Bayer Advanced Aspirin, the official pain reliever of MLB. Try targeted relief with the power of Bayer Advanced Aspirin. Beautiful night now here in Orange County. We're at Angels Stadium. The Angels leading the Red Sox 2-0 as we go to the top of the 8th inning, and a trio of changes right now for the Angels. As Mike Scioscia gets a better defensive club in the ballgame. Colin Cowgill is in left field, replacing J.B. Shuck. At first base, Mark Trumbo in for Brad Hawk. And the new pitcher is veteran left-hander Scott Downs. And the first batter that he will face, left-hand hitting Jacoby Ellsbury. Downs in his heyday would pitch an inning. Even more lefties, righties didn't matter. Now a little bit more of a specialist, coming in a little bit more often just to face a batter or two. But get a load of this. He's only given up an earned run in one of his last 32 appearances. Ellsbury tonight is 1 for 3. The double in the first inning extended his hitting streak to 17 games. He'll be followed by Nava and then Pedroia. Popped up back of third. Tricky play for Cayaspo, but he has the room.
Well, he's playing in for the bunt because respecting the speed of Jacoby Ellsbury. And you saw the path right there. He went straight back and then straight across. Instead of going straight toward the ball where it could create a bad angle, he created the own angle himself by how his footwork was. It's a great play by Cayaspo.
So one down, an important first down for Downs here in the 8th inning. And the next batter for the Red Sox, Daniel Nava, the switch hitter. This is his weaker side. Next up, perhaps, right-hander Kevin Jepsen. So the decision for Mike Scioscia will be, does he bring in Jepsen to face Pedroia, and then potentially he might have to face Ortiz? Or does he leave in Downs to face Pedroia, knowing the left-hand hitting Ortiz is after him?
Depends on what Nava does.
Yep.
Pedroia is the tying run. I think you see the right-hander. Pedroia's on with nobody on. I think he faces Downs.
Over the outside corner, a ball and 2 strikes.
Well, whoever's throwing in the bullpen, I can't see that far. The right-handed, he's not really in a hurry to get warmed up, and he might be warmed up, but you know, he's not in a hurry. So, like Laurel said, I think Downs is going to stay in to face Pedroia because, you know, if he gets Nava out, then Ortiz is just a tying run, and that's the one you got to get. Pedroia could hit a homer, it'd still be a 2-1 game. But first, he must get Nava.
There's so many question marks coming in this game for the Angels as we watch the whole game in front of us for Mike Scioscia. You know, the middle of the order with Pujols and Hamilton not hitting, they've contributed tonight, walks and base hits and heads-up base running. Jared Weaver, the velocity in his arm, can he have command? Can he go deep into the game? The bullpen, is it going to function? You know, with the injuries it had, can they shut down people? And defensively, they've been terrible, and they've been spectacular today in defense. They've played a California, Angel game that's been absolutely perfect, really, for them.
Got him looking, 2 down.
Freezes him on a fastball in. Convince him some off-speed stuff's going to come, and John, it just locks him up right in there. He drives this ball right inside on the inside corner.
Yeah, that's a bad feeling when you're not looking for a pitch in a certain location with 2 strikes and it comes there. It's just a great pitch.
So now Downs indeed will stay to face Pedroia, who's 0 for 3. On deck, David Ortiz hoping for a chance to tie the ball game here this inning. Pedroia can get on base.
You see his feet? He got happy feet in there, and he stands so far away from the plate. What is he? 5'9", 5?
If that. Yeah.
Well, he says 5'9". I'm gonna go with what he says. I mean, he stands far away from the plate. His feet just are running all over the place at times. But yet he hits 300 every year and give you.
Bouncer to third. And a nice job by Scott Downs against the Red Sox here in the 8th inning. Getting out 3 good hitters. Angels still up 2-0. Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. It was Mike Trout driving one out the other way in the first inning, his 15th home run of the season. Hank Conger demolishing one to right field in the 5th, his 6th home run of the season. And that is all the offense in this game thus far. Going bottom 8 in Anaheim, Angels 2, Red Sox nothing. John Lackey's night is done. 7 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. 5th start in a row for Lackey. 7 or more innings, 2 runs or fewer, 1 walk or fewer. Another very good outing for Lackey, but no offense for Lackey. Junichi Tazawa is in for the 41st time this season. And you can see just 4 walks. So look at the whip. The walks plus hits divided by innings pitched. A very tidy 1.11. Eric Ibar rips one to deep right center, all the way to the wall. Ibar thinking 3. And in there.
This is try to get me over first pitch fastball by Tazawa, and you see Ibar right there with the beautiful swing, but he's thinking, he sees this ball go in the gap, and he's watching, and now he says, okay, now I can get 3. And then Ellsbury had a little trouble with the wall because he was running so fast, trying to cut it off. Momentum took him into the wall and kind of trapped the ball there, and he gets into third base relatively easily.
Leadoff triple, 2nd of the season for Ibar, forces the infield in for the Red Sox. Mark Trumbo getting his first at bat. Came on defensively an inning ago, and 2 players came in, so Mike Scioscia moved Trumbo to the earlier spot in the order. So here he is effectively in the leadoff spot. Big slugger, struggling lately though, but got off to such a good start. The overall production numbers are still good.
I wonder what he's thinking when he does that. Gripping his bat, he has it away from him, and he looks like he's in deep thought. It's a perfect point to dumb down.
Center field and deep. And plenty for Ibar to tag and to come home easily. 3-0 Angels on the sac fly by Trumbo.
Yeah, the staring at the bat going into the batter's box is something that he picked up as a regimen just to get him to focus and lock in on every at-bat. He felt like he gave away a lot of at-bats, and he didn't give away this one to pick up that casual RBI on third. Used to be a swing and miss a lot. Used to not get the ball in the strike zone. He makes sure the ball's up, and he drives it to center field using the middle of the field so he stays on it, doesn't swing and miss. A little more focus with each at-bat for Trumbo.
Big extra run for the Angels here in the bottom of the 8th as Trout steps in. Outside, ball 2, activity in the Angel pen. Their closer, Ernesto Frieri, is up.
He dialed up a big 2 innings yesterday.
Inning game. Mike Scioscia needed him yesterday, and evidently will use him again here tonight.
We had broke the bullpen down with Mike about who would be available, and he said, you know, he had 4 days off coming into yesterday, so he'll be fine tonight. And so look at not only the workload the night before, but what kind of rest you had coming in. And they are off tomorrow. We'll get 2 full days of work, and then a nice off day tomorrow.
3-0. Ball 4. John Farrell's made the call. It's going to be all for Tazawa. Alfredo Aceves will enter the game with the Angels leading 3-0 bottom 8s. For the Angels, Alfredo Aceves entering the game for the Red Sox. An insurance run for the Angels here in the bottom of the 8th to lead 3-0. It is July. It is the month when a lot of deals happen. Trade deadline at the end of the month as you take a look at the numbers for Aceves. Just recalled today with Andrew Miller going on the DL with a foot injury today. X-rays negative, no broken bone, but serious enough to sideline him for at least 15 days. It's Buster Olney's time of year. Are the trade winds blowing, Buster?
They are blowing, and we may have seen the Red Sox trade needs defined over the last 24 hours with Andrew Miller going down. The Red Sox coming into the weekend, their thought was, you know what, we'll be open to the idea of upgrades at third base and in the bullpen, and now with Miller down, maybe that gets them to take a harder look at someone like Jesse Crane whenever he comes back from the disabled list. Maybe a Matt Thornton with the White Sox, maybe a guy like Kevin Gregg with the Chicago Cubs. Right now, as you guys know, it's a lukewarm market with bullpen help, but the Red Sox need some.
And with the extra wild card, more teams than ever before think they're in it right now. So not as many teams willing to sell, willing to try to get rid of some contracts and some veterans to replenish their farm systems. One team you just keep looking at and wondering which way it's going to go, guys, is the Phillies. They've got some people they can trade if they want to.
Big decisions to make, too. With Chase Utley, an impending free agent, do they trade him or keep him and try to win it? And if they don't think they can win it, do they trade him and get rid of one of the most popular players in that city?
And wouldn't teams love Cliff Lee at the head of their rotation?
Cliff Lee, would be another one. Again, I think would be up to, the Philadelphia Phillies and how much money they would be willing to eat of the remainder of Cliff's contract.
Jonathan Papelbon, the closer of the Phillies, former closer for the Red Sox, of course.
Michael Young is another one.
Especially third base.
Pujols pops up for the second out. Buster, what do you hear about Papelbon?
Well, there's natural speculation about the Red Sox because, of course, that's where he pitched before the Detroit Tigers. But what you're hearing a lot from executives is, look, he's really expensive. He's owed $13 million this year. He's owed $13 million next year, $13 million in 2015 in salary as a vesting option for 2016. That's a whole lot of money at this time of year. And, of course, there have been signs, according to scouts, of some regression in Papelbon's stuff.
2 down. Here's Josh Hamilton. 3-0 Angels. Hamilton 0 for 2 with a walk. So, Buster, if a contender needs a closer, who's out there potentially?
The best guy right now is probably Kevin Gregg of the Chicago Cubs, and the Cubs are willing to deal him right now. The guy everybody would love to see out on the market is Glenn Perkins of the Minnesota Twins, but the Twins are telling everybody, forget it. You talk about contracts, he's owed $10 million for the next 3 years.
Hamilton rips the ball to left center. And it'll skip up and out of play, and that cost the Angels a run. Trout would have scored easily, but has to go back to third. And that gives Hamilton now a 12-game hitting streak.
Well, and this is what made Josh Hamilton an MVP, and why I still think he can come out of this thing and be a productive hitter for the Angels. I mean, this is a really beautiful swing right there. And when he's staying on the ball and his front foot's getting down early, and he's letting the ball get a little deeper, and he's not chasing balls out of the zone, if he makes him throw strikes, he can put up big numbers. But, I mean, you look at how quick his hips are, how they fly out, how his hands just rip through the zone. He has the palm up, palm down thing going and shoots that ball into left center field. And I think they need to change the rule because the umpire has taken into consideration 2 outs. Trout's running on contact. He's one of the fastest guys in baseball. He scores easily on that play. But because of the rules, he has to go back to third.
Howie Kendrick sprays one foul. So Trout at third, Hamilton at second, 2 down. 3-0 Angels in the bottom of the 8th.
Josh Hamilton has had 4 quality at-bats tonight. He struck out in the first at-bat. The second at-bat, he struck out looking on a ball that probably was away from Lackey, and he showed discipline. And he walked his next at-bat, and then he got a strike up here. And he really had 4 really good at-bats.
That ball stays fair and ends the inning. The Angels get 1. Kendrick upset, left a couple of men on. Hamilton extends the hitting streak, and Ernesto Frieri is going to make his way into the ball game to try to lock it up for the Angels and give them what would be their 10th win in their last 12 games. The Angels try to win the series from the Red Sox, make it 10 wins in 12 games, move a step closer to the 500 mark, and bit by bit, day to day, try to revive the hopes they had for being a contender this year. See, some of the big thumpers are coming up for the Red Sox here in the ninth against the closer for the Angels, Ernesto Frieri. He can be a little erratic with his command, but a tough guy to get a base hit off of.
Yeah, you see, he has that different arm angle, Oro, and it looks like his ball just jumps. You know, he throws 94, which is very hard, but it looks like 104 by the way he just jumps on the hitter.
David Ortiz will lead it off, shift on. Ortiz 0 for 3, a strikeout and a couple of groundouts. And Frieri, as good as he is, I mean, he's incredibly tough on left-handed batters. Look at that. He's held lefties to a 103 average this year. Righties are hitting a respectable 257. Came over to deal with San Diego early last season. After Ortiz, Mike Napoli, Mike Carp, 4, 5, 6. Big swing and a miss, 2-1.
Up to 2-0. I'm not getting cheated. If he throws a strike, I'm going to try to hit this one out of this ballpark. But you see that, even 2-0, that ball was by him. And he threw it harder than he has any other pitch. That was 95.
95 again. Fouled back, 2-2.
I just wonder if lefties had trouble picking up his swing because it looks like he just gets on it.
Yeah, David's upset with himself there because he got the one he was looking for. The first two pitches were away. The second one, the third pitch surprised him in. He almost jammed himself. But right there, he had all the information he wanted. He just didn't barrel it up.
Frieri in no rush. Jared Weaver hoping for the win tonight. De La Rosa got it out of the 7th. Scott Downs worked a 3-up, 3-down 8th. And now Frieri here in the 9th.
You know, you hear a hitter
yell after he swings and you're on the mound, it gets a little personal the rest of the at-bat. Because the hitter's kind of trying to say is, I should have just killed you and got you bad, and I missed it, and it's my fault. And the pitcher's going to say, no, I got the ball by you. You fouled it off. So let's continue this battle.
Well, if Frieri has anything off speed, I'd dial it up right here. There it is.
And under the glove of Trumbo down the line. Ortiz into second.
I agreed with you, John. The only thing that Frieri didn't do is he didn't take enough off it, and he didn't get it enough inside.
Yeah, he threw an off-speed pitch, a slider, but he still threw it hard enough that it wasn't that much of a difference in speed. I mean, Ortiz was looking everything fastball, 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 and all that ball right there did was get the barrel of the bat out in front so he could hit it down the line.
Yep.
But that's an out. I mean,
Trumbo's got to have that ball.
That should be an out. And Mark Trumbo will be the first to tell you that, even though it's hooking on the ground away from you from a left-handed hitter, it's still a ball he has to make a play on.
And it's an error charged to Trumbo. Now Napoli. Trumbo still shaking his head a little bit every now and again. Came on as a defensive replacement an inning ago. Well, how big does that third run look right now? The one the Angels got in the bottom of the eighth.
He's the one that drove it in with the sac fly.
I mean, when you watch that ground ball, though, it really never left the ground. It hooks, but it never left the ground. Usually the ball from a left-hander will bounce on you, but this one just stayed on the ground, and you see it. He just didn't get his glove down. But that's the thing. You're always told, never let the ball go under your glove. If it bounces over, there's nothing you can do. That's why you should get in front of it and block it with your body. But don't never let it go under your glove, and he did.
Swing and a miss by Napoli, one down.
And that's the thing, too, when your closer has pitched 2 innings last night's game, and then he comes in here, you can't make him get 4 outs. He's going to have to now, but he has to get, now he's going to have to get 4 outs because of the Trumbo play. And that's just high chatter and see you later.
Pretty awkward swing for a pretty good fastball hitter there in Napoli. Here's Carbo for 3 strikeouts. Sports Center comes your way at the conclusion of the ball game tonight here on ESPN. Just joining us, the Angels up on the Red Sox 3-0, top 9. Home runs for Trout and Conger. Weaver pitched well for the Angels. Lackey did the same for the Red Sox, but might get stuck with a loss. And Frieri dialing it up to 95 again.
Or is that the thing when a reliever comes in, if he's pitched 2 innings the night before, is his command's not good, but the velocity is still there?
Yeah, he's well rested from the 4 days prior, and the 2 days didn't take it out of the life in his arm. He looks great. Might have had cobwebs last night. Now he's cleared.
How come some guys at 95 get so many swings and misses and some guys don't? Is there deception? Is he hiding it at all?
Yeah, to me it looks like, just from when you see the screen behind him and watching where we are sitting, it just looks like the ball gets on the hitters quicker. So now you have to speed your whole process up as a hitter because you think the ball's getting on you quicker. And if he throws anything off speed, you're out in front, you can't get it.
The thing I've noticed about pitchers that have herky-jerky motions, they still give you a trigger of when to start your load as a hitter or start your timing, but it's not the timing that you want. So when you have that deliberate guy on the mound, a lot of times that's the same rhythm the hitter is trying to develop, but his rhythm of how he comes at you is different than the rhythm the hitter wants. You see the nice, easy rhythm of the hitter, and then you see the herky-jerkiness of the pitcher, and I think that distracts hitters.
On the appeal, he wins. 2 down. Ryan Lavarnway will be the batter. The Red Sox down to their final out. trying to avoid being shut out for the 5th time this season. Lavarnway's 1 for 3. Boston just 1 for 8 tonight with the runners in scoring position. Strike one.
It's interesting with the switch hitter Saltalamacchia, and this might go by the numbers that righties are more successful than lefties. Why he's not putting Saltalamacchia in here to hit right now?
See Johnny Gomes pinch hitting next, backing up your theory that righties hit Frieri better. Gomes is a power threat. If Lavarnway can get on, Brock Holt's due up next as the tying run. We could see Gomes.
More than likely you will see Gomes, and that's that's the one. We got one shot. Let it rip, big boy.
Outside edge, 1 and 2. Lavarnway questioning Mike Winters on that one.
If I'm Frieri, I'm going back out there again. If you're going to get that pitch just a little bit off the plate, go back out there again and see if he'll give you another.
Angels win the ball game. The Angels take 2 out of 3. They've won 10 out of 12, and they're back within 2 games of the 500 mark for the first time since the first week of the season. Tonight, Chevrolet player of the game is the starter of the winner for the Angels, Jared Weaver. 6 2/3, 5 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and the win here tonight for the Angels. Outdueling John Lackey. Home runs for Mike Trout, Hank Conger. A nice job by the Angel bullpen. And they continue to inch closer to the 500 mark as we get closer and closer to the All-Star break. In front of a crowd of better than 39,000 tonight here at Angel Stadium, the hometown Angels defeat the Red Sox by a score of 3-0. Don't forget, Major League Baseball continues tomorrow night, 7 Eastern here on ESPN. It'll be the Nationals and the Phillies. Coming up next, tonight's Sports Center. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Oral Hershiser, John Kruk, Buster Olney, and our entire Sunday Night Baseball crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying thanks for watching and so long from Anaheim.